أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all my brothers and sisters in Islam. I hope this Ramadan is a month that is proving to be spiritually enlightening for you, and at the same time it's a month that is allowing you to reflect on the current situation we are in, and I hope it proves to be a month where your connection with Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam increases. Ameen. I am speaking from Sayyida Muslim Community Center's platform. I was asked by Brother Zahid Rafiq to talk about Sayyida Khadija Kubra, Radi Anha, Salamun alayha. Since it's Ramadan 10th is her Yom Misal, or her death anniversary. So it's important that we talk a bit about her. I'll try to speak a bit in Urdu as well, but I'm more comfortable speaking in English. I know a lot of the members of the congregation at Sayyida Zainab Center are actually Urdu speaking, and so it's more it's easier for them to understand, and they feel more connected. But I also want to target the youth. I think the adults, they know more than me, for sure. And in fact, I can learn from them. So what I want to do is I want to target the youth. So hopefully when this is shared with everyone, it actually resonates or relates to the youth. So without further ado, I would like to start with discussing a bit brief about Sayyida Khadija Kubra radhiyallahu anha's life. I think it's important for us we talk briefly about her life, and then we talk into why she's so important, why she's so critical to Islam. This is my belief, and I think by the end of my discussion, hopefully you would have similar views, if not close enough. But it's for me, she is the pillar, or she's the foundation because of which now we are Muslims. It was her sacrifices, and it was her support, initial support to the Prophet ﷺ and to the early Muslim community, as well as Islam itself, that resulted in Islam being able to grow and expand later on. So let's talk about her herself, like Sayyida Khadija Kubra radhiyallahu anha. She's, as we all know, she was born in Makkah. She was a resident of Makkah. She was from a noble family. Her father was Khuwailid, who was basically a very he was a rich person, you could say. He was an influential person as well. He was a trader, wealthy trader. And so Sayyida Khadija Kubra radhiyallahu anha herself was also, you can say, someone who was a noble person, a noble woman, right? She was, you can say, from the high class of the society in a way. So that's basically a brief introduction in terms of where in the society, in the social strata she was. Then basically she got married, and we know, like, before the Prophet ﷺ, she married twice. The first time she got married, and then she basically had two children, a boy, actually two boys. And then the husband passed away. Then she got married away again, and this time she had a daughter, and again the husband passed away after a few years. After these two marriages, she then did not marry again. She got proposals from different members of Makkah, from the different heads as well of the tribes, because she was at the end a very she was from a good family, as you would say in that time, and she was also beautiful. Like there are traditions that she was also attractive. So so because of that, then she got a lot of proposals, but she did not accept them. Instead, she focused on other matters. So what were these matters? Like one, we know for sure that she took up her father's trade. So she got involved in a way because her father's health started deteriorating substantially, and so he had sons as well. But he got Sayyida Khadija Kubra involved into this trade. Why? That tells you something that you know, she had maybe that aptitude. Maybe the father noticed that she had those skills where she could manage successfully such a business, right? That could be. So or maybe she maybe because the father felt that she had now more time because she was not married and she could pay more attention to the business. So she was a more suitable candidate. Regardless of the fact, her father got her involved with the trade, and then she took over, and the trade expanded because she paid so much attention to it, and it grew every day. But there's also another thing that really is mentioned about her time during this period. Sayyida Khadija al-Kubra radhiyallahu anha actually also got involved in what we call self-reflection and studying other scriptures. There are traditions where it's said that she used to read the Torah. So she was exploring, you can say. In fact, according to some scholars, Sayyida Khadija radhiyallahu anha never worshipped idols. She didn't adopt paganism from very early stage. She did not feel attracted to at all these idols and these the religion of the people of Makkah at that time. So it was a time for her to contemplate as well that, you know, what is this life and where we've come from, and those kind of questions. So at the same time, her trade was expanding, and so she was always in search of people who would actually help her, because the way she had structured her trade was that she would invest, she would buy the goods or prepare the goods, whatever, and then she would get some, like an agent, or delegate it to someone else, like employ someone who would take it and then sell it to Syria or modern Iraq, in these places, and then come back, and the profits would then be shared, or they would be cut for the person who was employed. So that was her business model, you can say. And as part of that, what happened was, so then she basically she was looking for someone during her one of her trips, basically, like she was building up a caravan to be sold into those markets, and that's when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also looking for work, you can say, because at that time, right before that period, there was also a drought, you can say, in Mecca, and then the situation of the Prophet's uncle Abu Talib radhiyallahu anhu was a bit weak because of financially, and he has a big family. He was also supporting, we all know that he raised the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. So he had children, and he had a family as well he was supporting. So then they were trying to find other sources of income, you can say. And so at that point, then Sayyida Khadija came to know about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, that through also the Prophet's aunt, I would say that Abu Talib radhiyallahu sister, Atika. So through her, she came to realize, know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is available, and he can he can also take up this work. So that's how they entered into like a partnership, and the Prophet ﷺ took the caravan from Mecca towards Basra, and then you had basically his slave, her slave actually, Sayyida Khadija's slave, Maysara, who she gave special instructions to monitor what the Prophet is doing, to see, but don't basically get involved, but just see, observe him, and then come back and tell me about what you noticed and what you saw. So long story short, basically the trip was successful. There were profits made, in fact huge profits made when he came, when the caravan returned. Sayyida Khadija Kubra was informed by her slave that about the honesty of the Prophet ﷺ, about the way he managed it, the way he handled it, and also the fact that there were certain other observations. Like for instance, he mentioned about this monk that noticed the Prophet ﷺ sitting down under a tree, and he came out and he said, "Who's this person?" And they told him that he's Muhammad bin Abdullah from Mecca, from Quraysh, and here to trade. And he said he's a prophet. He's a Nabi of Allah, because only Nabi of Allah or Anbiya sit under this tree. So there were other also. I won't get into more detail, but there were other there in the Seerah and in the books. There are narrations that how they realized that the Prophet ﷺ, they were already, Sayyida Khadija Kubra knew by that time that the Prophet ﷺ was special. So that's the whole basically crux of this whole story. So by that point she knew it, but then she was also impressed with just his his character, like the way he was, and the way he carried himself, and the way he talked, and the way he managed her affairs. So then after some time she actually proposed to him, and she proposed to him through her friend, her best friend Nafisa, proposed through her to basically reach out to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ accepted. Now here I would like to take a break and highlight 2 points which are very important, not just for women or our young girls today, or we have this tendency of this is because it's a female, only the female members of our community should take a message from him. No. It's as much as it's for females. It's for the males as well as for the men and the women, the boys and the girls. For everyone, there's a message in this. And what is that? The first is Sayyida Khadija Kubra Anha was a successful businesswoman. She was productive, right? She was in Mecca at that time. Remember, this was like almost like 1500 years ago. And what was she doing? I mean, she wasn't just sitting around. I mean, she was widowed twice, and what she did was she got productive. She engaged in business, in trade, right? And given the circumstances and situation, she managed accordingly. Instead of going herself out into those markets where it was not possible at the time perhaps for a noble woman to go out and do dealing and trading, she engaged agents or used servants or other people to manage her affairs. But she was smart, intelligent, and she got involved in this stuff. At the same time, she was also engaging in self-reflection or contemplation, as I mentioned to you. She was reading about other stuff, other religions. So that's one thing. The second is she proposed to the Prophet. She was at that age 40 years old, that's what we're told, and 25 years of age was the Prophet. So she was 15 years older than the Prophet. She already had children. She was twice widowed. And the Prophet was unmarried. He was a bachelor, he was young, 25 years old, and that's when she proposed to him. Can we now, like a lot of I would like to address this to the elders as well. Can we imagine now our daughters, our women, doing such a thing? At times, especially, I come from the Indian Pakistan community, and I know that this is something that's looked down upon even now. You know, that you are giving your daughter the choice, or even asking her to think about who she wants to marry. So this brings me to the next part now. So what did Khadija Kubra did? What did she do? So even before she actually proposed, she actually did mashwara, or seeked advice, because by that time her father had passed away. So what she, one of her cousins, Warqa bin Nawfal, he, and we'll talk about him later as well, Warqa bin Nawfal was basically like a brother to her. So she actually talked to him, discussed about the Prophet ﷺ with him. She discussed with her uncle, or you can say her other cousins as well, and got their advice about the Prophet ﷺ. And so because the Prophet ﷺ was even known as Amin at that time, right? So he was known for his virtues and his character. So no one really said, or no one went against this proposal at all. And she got good feedback from there and her own experience. So one source was what the people were saying, right? Close ones, people she had trusted all her life, people whose trust she had, people she knew would always advise her about good. And then the second was her own experience with the individual. And together then she formed this this opinion that, yeah, this is the right thing I need to do. So these are small pointers for everyone, for the youth, for us, how to approach ourselves in these important matters in life when you have to take a decision, how to go about it. Also, the other thing is she was also known as Tahira. Tahira at even before she got married to the Prophet ﷺ. So it's not just it was a laqab or a name or title given to her after Islam. It was with her, associated with her in the community in Mecca, even before she got married, right? Even in time of Jahiliyyah, she was known as that. Just like the Prophet was known as Amin. So let's move on. Let's talk about now. Let's go back to the story a bit. So she got to the Prophet ﷺ, she got married to the Prophet ﷺ. They had, you can say, an amazing life. They had children, 6 children, 4 daughters, 2 sons. But there was also tragedy. The 2 sons passed away in one in infancy and the other like 4 years old. There disputes on what the ages were, but nevertheless, the 2 children passed away. And then basically, can you imagine like a mother loses 2 sons, even 2 daughters, whatever. But the thing is, like, if 2 children pass away, it's very difficult. I've got daughters, so it's I cannot even imagine the pain that someone could go through. But anyways, think about that for a second, and then the other thing is basically. As her life progressed with the Prophet ﷺ, she gave all her money, all her wealth to the Prophet. It was at his disposal. She said, as you want to use it, you use it. And it's also narrated that she would serve the Prophet herself, even though she was a wealthy woman. She had slaves. But she would love to serve the Prophet herself. But she loved the Prophet, right? That's why. And so what happened? When the Prophet ﷺ declared his prophethood, the first thing that happened when the first revelation came to him, Iqra, he came home, and he was shocked, you can say. It was such an enormous. It was such a, such a shocking experience. So Sayyida Khadija to Kubra Anha, what did she say? What did she tell him? She said, your Allah will never humiliate you. He will not humiliate you because you keep good relationships. You help the poor and you serve the guests. So imagine now, he's coming and he's all shocked and you can say in a way stressed as well because of the experience, and she's consoling him. And then she also wrapped him, you can say, call it in Urdu chadar, right? Wrapped a shawl around him, or maybe a blanket, a thin blanket around the Prophet ﷺ, and because he was shivering as well and he was feeling cold. So she consoled him, and then she took him later to her cousin Varka, and who then told him that what you've experienced and what you are telling me is indicates to me that you are a prophet of God. And then he also told about things to come, like for instance, people will oppress you and they will drive you out of the city. So anyways, basically, that's how initially she supported the Prophet ﷺ in his most, you can say, critical time when he first experienced revelation or wahi directly from Jibreel alayhi salam. Or through Jibreel alayhi salam, directly from Allah. And so then after that, then what happened was, as we know, then the oppression started. When the Prophet declared his prophethood openly to the people, the oppression started. And that's when we see Sayyida Khadija really rise to the occasion. Like we see her sacrificing her wealth for the Muslims, for the community. We see her herself going through a lot of oppression. The biggest thing for her, if you look at it, was that the Prophet was being oppressed, and she loved the Prophet so much. Sometimes it's easier for one person themselves to be oppressed, but when someone they love so much and they are being oppressed, it becomes unbearable. So she went through that. And then the biggest of all oppressions was perhaps the social boycott that happened in Shabi Abi Talib, where the Quraysh, the rest of the tribes in Quraysh, boycotted the Bani Hashim and forced them to take refuge in a cave, or like you can say a trench or a ditch, basically outside of Mecca. So this was around the 7th year of the prophethood, and that's when they took refuge over there. And it lasted 3 years, the social boycott. So no one was talking to them, no food, no drink, no interaction. In fact, the children over there used to cry, and the Quraysh outside, they could hear the cries and they would laugh. So the extent of oppression was so much on them, and this lasted for 3 years. Ultimately, you can say that the Quraysh gave up. Basically, the rest of the tribes gave up, and they said basically the boycott was over and they cancelled it. But the damage was done. In those 3 years, by that time, Sayyida Khadija was already 65 years of old, years of age, and so imagine 3 years with no food or minimum food and drink, and sleeping on the floor. I mean, there's so much going on. People around you are suffering and oppression. So what did she do? She came back, but what happened was that she was very sick, or ill or frail after that, and she couldn't really recover fully. And so then she passed away. So she also passed away, and the Prophet's uncle, Abu Talib radiallahu anhu, also passed away. He passed away first and then she passed away. And as a result, the Prophet declared the whole year as Amu Huzn, the year of sadness, the year of sorrow. I mean, in Islam, we know that sorrow is only for 3 days. That's the, they say that commonly, oh, it's only 3 days, right? But here the Prophet ﷺ declared the whole year as a year of sadness. And even later in his life he would mention, say, the Khadija Kubra and remember him frequently, even in front of his other wives. And he would say, these are in the hadith, he would say that she was with me when everyone else denied me. She believed in me when everyone else denied me. So, and that's the one of the fadila, or the uniqueness of Sayyida Khadija al-Kubra. She was the first person to believe in the Prophet. Man or woman, doesn't matter. The first individual. Now, if you talk a woman, then you say, and that's where I struggle a bit. I mean, the first person to believe or have believe in the Prophet ﷺ was a woman, and yet today we hear this, that Islam is oppressive to women. How can that be? When the first person to believe is a woman. So we have to think about these things, like and try to get a message from this. My intention is just not to narrate a story near her life. I'm trying to give you some pointers to think about it, contemplate about this, think about the fact that she is the first person to believe in the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, she loved the Prophet ﷺ, and that's one of the reasons why she was blessed with this uniqueness of being the first one, and she's ruined her love. But she's gone from being at a higher status in the or a life of luxury to this life where she was right before her death. She was in this cave, and in this state where she was maybe, it's completely opposite to that. Yet she stayed with the Prophet. She was consistent and she was faithful to him and remained so forever. So, it's one thing I would like to say before I close is there's this hadith in Bukhari where Sayyida Khadija radiallahu anha comes to the Prophet, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to her that this Jibreel alayhi salam here, and he came to me and he's saying that Allah and Jibreel send their salam or give their salam to you, Khadija radiallahu anha. And they say that and he says, Allah says that in heaven they give her the glad tidings that in heaven there's a house for her where there's no pain, no suffering, only tranquility, only peace. So she is the one who Allah and the angels would say salam to. So it's unfortunate, but we don't talk much about Sayyida Khadija Kubra radiallahu anha. But she is the foundation, as I mentioned earlier. She is the foundation upon which later on Islam flourished. She is the first one to have sacrificed so much for Islam, or amongst the first one to sacrifice so much for Islam. And it's not just this, her contribution, you'll see, I don't have much time, but her contribution is on so many matters, like I mean, she's raised the Prophet's children. She, of course, there's equal contribution by the father and the mother, but she brought them up, right? She also, I mean, Sayyidina Ali Radi, she raised him as well. She was like a mother to him as well. If you look at, she, even one of her stepsons, one of her sons, the Prophet's stepsons, from Sayyida Khadija earlier marriage, he also died for the sake of Islam. There are narrations that he died in the way of Islam. So, I mean, she's, whatever she had at that time with the Prophet ﷺ, she sacrificed all of that. And this is how we should remember her as a mother. That's why we call her Ummul Mu'mineen, the mother of the faithful. So accept her as your mother and love her more than your mother. Yes, you should love her more than your mother. Why? Why is that? Because there's no one like the Prophet ﷺ. We all know this, that the Prophet ﷺ said, you cannot attain Iman if you don't love me more than anything in this world. So, for a mu'min, ultimate love or extreme love for the Prophet is a requirement. And she is the wife of the Prophet. Someone the Prophet loved so much. You know, when she passed away, there are narrations that when she passed away, the Prophet was hugging her. She was in the embrace of the Prophet ﷺ. Who can claim this? There are very few people. I don't know many, but very few can claim this privilege of being in the arms of the Prophet, being in the arms of Rasulullah ﷺ when death approached him, and the Prophet ﷺ being, Radi from them, or being had no complaints from them. So I'll conclude here, and I hope this was something that will help you to reflect more, not only just on her life and the sacrifices that these people, these are our heroes that they've made in order for Islam to come to us, but also that we get messages for our today's life. Their life is as relevant to us as it was not only at that time but today as well. And so I hope then the rest of the Ramadan proves to be a month of learning and spiritual enhancement for you, and may Allah keep you in His protection and your families as well. And inshallah, we'll try to continue this. Please give me your feedback. It's always appreciated. And if you like to change something, if you like some modifications, do let me know. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.